All right.
Still muted? No,
There
okay.
we are.
It muted me for like way forever. Hi, everybody. Welcome, Phai Giron of the... Wait, where is he?
He's open.
All right, so Phai Giron. There he is. There he is. Phai Giron, who joined us recently on the Last of Us Fake Nerd Watch series, has joined us for this review of Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. Welcome, sir. Hello. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's
I'm glad
I'm all right. Excuse me. I step aside to try and get some cough syrup because I'm recovering from COVID.
No, we're gonna get sick now.
Again?
It's actually been over a year since I had COVID. I got it on the 1st of January last year.
There you go.
But
still that's rough.
Phai, do you mind turning down your microphone just a smidge? Better. While I introduce the movie, so we're going to be talking about Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, the big budget Dungeons and Dragons movie, directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, written by the two of them with Michael Gilio. So, what do we think about this movie? Ben, full spoilers, by the way. Full spoilers. Ben.
Always.
Oh, I love this movie.
Yeah.
I had a Rick-rolling good time. This was the Dungeons and Dragons movie you know what? This wasn't the Dungeons and Dragons movie I wanted, but it was the Dungeons and Dragons movie I needed.
Ryan, you're pointing.
Oh, I like the thing. Like the one neat thing. I always like that. It's always fun. Y'all, what if Guardians of the Galaxy and Ocean's 11 had a baby and that midwife was a Minotaur? This movie's great. This is a great ass time at the movies. Chris Pine, I just love that dude and everything. Like he is just a really fun, charming leading man, and the whole cast is great. You don't need to know anything about Dungeons and Dragons for this to be a great time. If you do, holy shit, this is like one of the in terms of like Easter eggs, fan service. This is like one of the best versions of it because it's never hitting you over the head with it. It is just the world. It's just those are the spells. This is what the characters look like. That's the Dragonborn, Jonathan. It's all beautiful.
I love Jonathan, and I have a copy of the Monster Manual with me, just so we can talk about some of the monsters that we see. And I flipped to an ancient black dragon. Doesn't that look familiar?
That's amazing. Black stuff all over the ground.
Yeah.
Sparkz, what did you think about this one?
Oh, I had a wonderful time. I loved it so much. I'm genuinely sad that I couldn't see it with Ben Magnet.
Mm-hmm.
And
devastated, honestly.
Phai. You were like, I need to be on this episode.
He hadn't even seen the movie yet, and he's like, I need to be here.
So what did you think about this one?
I friggin' loved it. Like I knew from the first trailer that it was going to be such a fun time. I'm glad it lived up to my expectations and then some.
I appreciate that you had faith in the trailers because we did not.
I had faith in the first trailer. I thought that first trailer looked incredible.
Okay, sure.
Oh, right. I forgot you mentioned that you had seen like more and more trailers and just looked more and more generic.
I maintained the faith because I'm like, this can't be bad. It's the team from Game Night. It cannot be as bad as these trailers are making it look. But boy, howdy, having seen the movie, yes, this movie was marketed terribly, terribly marketed.
That really bad trailer that myself, Sparkz, and Ryan saw. I forgot what movie it was in front of, but it was with the epic voice guy.
Right, yeah. They literally lie about what the plot of the movie is, and they make it sound even more generic. Like they're trying to appeal to some audience that like it definitely is not working for. I don't know why they do it because they are like, we stole something from the wrong wizard, and now here we are, and we got to steal it back to save the world. And that's not the story.
Yeah. That was so funny because that line played so many times. Like, we stole from the wrong wizard and blah blah blah. I'm like, that's not. They were teaming up. What?
Phai, do you have any more thoughts before we continue into the full review? Because I want to say my initial thoughts.
Yeah. That's fair. Oh my God! It's
Phai is dying before our eyes. So what is it? Saving death throws.
Mm-hmm. I failed my Constitution save.
Yeah.
I guess composure save, essentially. You're right. They were marketing it as, yeah, we're gonna steal back this one specific item to save the world, and they show it. It's like, oh, it's this horn in the trailers. Yeah, no, that wasn't what they were trying to get. The whole story was more grounded and like, what's the word? Wholesome.
Yeah.
So this movie once again had me going, oh, what are you doing, Paramount? I quite enjoyed this film. I do think that there is a sense of just to kind of acknowledge probably Sparks's because Sparkz is always looking at my letterbox and constantly taking that to the show, even though I wish he wouldn't.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
But you know, that's your initial thoughts of this thing, and that's why I'm gonna stop reviewing. That's why I'm gonna stop putting star ratings on the movies we're gonna review, because I don't want you to bring that to the show. It makes me feel very bad.
By doing this.
It makes me feel bad. I've had a really rough 2 weeks. I've been deep in the throes of depression, and I've finally kind of tried to claw my way out of it just today. And mood can greatly take away from art experience. And so if you're very depressed watching a movie, it could kind of take away from that. So I really like this movie. I think this is a lot of fun. I have no negatives to say about it. But at this moment, I feel like I need to watch it again because I wish I like adored it. And I'm sure I would give it a rewatch. But right now where I'm sitting at, I loved it. I thought it was really fun. I love the cast. I love it's exactly the blockbuster I needed it to be. It's earnest. It feels like Dungeons and Dragons game, which is exactly what I wanted it to be. I was very, very happy with this movie.
Have you played?
I will kick things off with my only negative about this movie, which is that through the entire middle section of the film, they give Druid nothing to do. The
Druid?
The Druid transforming girl.
Doric.
Yeah, Doric.
The tiefling.
Yeah. Yeah,
Sophia
her name
Lillis.
is Doric. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sophia Lillis, yeah.
Yeah, she's the least. She is definitely the person who has the least amount to do in this. She's the owlbear, and then she's kind of
it's like there's a large, like, obviously I wasn't sitting there with a timer or anything, but like there's a chunk of time in this film where like she's there, but she's not doing anything or saying anything, and I'm like, this is a little rough for her.
She had her big moment.
She did a
her
lot.
introduction is her big moment, kind of,
for sure.
unfortunately. Yeah.
She was like the spy, the infiltrator as a fly and stuff.
Yes. I'm not talking about the beginning or the ending. I'm talking about the middle of the movie. Like once they're traveling to go dig up bodies, all the way up to when they are actually heading back into Neverwinter. She's all the way up until the fireplace scene. She's kind of just there. Like she's not really saying much that matters, and she's not doing much that matters either for that whole section. It's my only negative is that she's just kind of sidelined at that point in the film.
Sure.
It's not even so much like a negative. It's like she is the one character who like they don't utilize throughout the entire movie like the other cast is used.
Right.
And that is kind of a bummer.
I mean, same could be said for the wizard.
Justice Smith?
Yeah, like there are certain parts where he, didn't quite come into play.
No, I don't think that's even kind of the same because, like, I do think through the middle,
he's joking.
He's either getting good line jokes, which she's not.
Yeah, he's jokey.
Or he's trying to mess with his powers, or he's stepping on the bridge and activating the trap, or he's using the hither-thither stick. Like, he's doing a lot through that middle section, and she is not doing anything.
I'll bounce off of that.
Bounce it.
And talk and say that the costume design is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in this movie, the reason why I'm bouncing off that is because I think Sophia Lillis looks great. I think everyone looks great in this movie. Just like it's exactly was what I really liked in fantasy. Like we finally got fantasy with just like very pretty people, and that's nice. We haven't had that in a while.
It is also nice to just have a huge budget fantasy movie with more practical effects than maybe any big blockbuster in recent history. The amount of real monsters on screen is insane.
Dragonborns.
Multiple. We got a homeless dragonborn. We got a prison dragonborn. And again, our
open with an orc.
Jonathan is one of my favorite things. That whole bit in the beginning when they're just like. It's why I really think that Jonathan should be here because he'd get my story. And like when they enact their plan, because Jonathan finally showed up, and he's just like, "Wait, we were going to accept your pardon."
Right.
He succeeded his charisma check before.
What's up, man?
No, I was gonna say I'm gonna acknowledge the chat because Danger Dan is saying Jonathan was his favorite character hands down because yeah, it's awesome.
It's just such a
And-
great name.
And also Grayson saying that the practical effects were great to see. And even then, Dan, again, because he's my dungeon master for D and Dark, said love the use of traps and magic items, incredibly true to Dungeons and Dragons.
So because I watched again, I watched so many interviews with the cast and directors. When they get the helmet, what's the helmet of
Dysfunction.
dysfunction?
Just no, it's not
The
dysfunction. It's
dissertation?
like this
Disjunction.
Definitely got
Disjunction.
Yeah.
Anyway, the helmet that they get, that box, that glass onion type box, that was real. That was all real.
Yeah.
It wasn't CG. They might have CGI spruced it up, but that was a mechanical device that they actually built that opened up with the helmet and everything in the sand. And I'm like, yeah.
I was gonna say, like, it's not just the practical effects of like creatures and stuff like that, but like there's this incredible, I definitely retweeted it on Twitter, but like there's this incredible sequence that they show how Doric travels through the their portal into the carriage and how they orbited the camera, and like these guys are so good, not just because of how they think about like using these practicals and everything, but how they think about visually styling this film, which again, not surprising. Game Night is an incredibly stylistic comedy.
Yeah.
And that was also on display here. Like they really think of inventive ways to move the camera around to make something way more fun to watch. Just like simple things, way more fun to watch and stylish.
It's not
than just putting the camera there and filming it.
It's not a lazy movie at all. Phai, I want to hear there's so many great references. You know, I've played tons of Dragon Ball Z. I've played plenty of D&D video games, so I've been to Waterdeep. I know about Neverwinter. I've played Neverwinter online, and I played the regular game. I've been everywhere. What was your favorite call? Like, oh man, that's some shit right there.
Let's see. I'm not as like into like the deep D&D official lore. Like I know some whatever.
We're not talking about Drizzt today. Don't worry. We're not getting that hardcore. Don't worry.
We're not what?
Drizzt, the most famous elf from Al Arve Salvatore. Give me a break, yo.
No, I'm a noob and I like, but I like finally got into it for most of 21 and 22, including running my own campaign for the first time on my birthday, and. I enjoyed seeing all the utility of the spells and them trying to like manage, but also bend the rules so it makes sense within the world and narrative. Like the hither thither is kind of like a pseudo dimension door, but has like a limited range to it.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that characters like verbally accounted for it, and visually we got confirmation of that too. It's like, oh, it's in a cart. How it's getting further away. When's the portal gonna just vanish? Oh, they're just right there at the corner.
Yeah, one of the things that I really liked about the movie, and I talked a little bit about like one of the things I really wanted to see when it comes to like a Dungeons and Dragons movie, and I didn't even know I wanted it until Sparkz mentioned it when the second trailer dropped, and we see that like, you know, it's the scene where Michelle Rodriguez is able to escape with the brick, and Chris Pine can't cut his ropes. Like it feels like Chris Pine failed his dice roll and Michelle Rodriguez didn't, and that's what I thought was really cool about this movie, is that it felt like it felt like a D&D campaign, because if the story is dictated, it feels like by the roll of a die. Yep. Their plan to use the whatever it's called stick to get into the carriage fails. Yeah. That ends up not working, and like it feels and it works in the narrative, because you're like, oh right, this is a Dungeons and Dragons game where like the whole story can change. The whole story can change based on the roll of a die, and I love that they brought that sensibility to this movie, and it made the movie so much more special.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Like we brought up Simon Justice Smith, the sorcerer. He went to go check that bridge out, and he rolled a 1, so he stepped on the bridge and he destroyed the bridge. Yeah, this it feels so natural, but again, like when you like look at it, you're like, oh man, like you could tell they thought of this kind of stuff.
Fortunately, after that, he rolled like a 20 on perception to make up for it, and saw that what the stick actually was.
Yeah, you know.
Didn't like one of the don't both directors come from like old school, from teenage years playing D&D? Was on Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah, well, Francis Daley was like 15 on Freaks and Geeks. Oh yeah.
Real quickly, because we talked about the hither thither stick. It comes from Bradley Cooper.
Whoa!
I forgot, or not forgot, but it's like
Little baby boy.
Little Bradley
gnome.
Cooper.
Plays a
With his
halfling.
little bowl cut.
no, that's
like
not
a
a
little
halfling. That's a
hobbit.
gnome.
No,
No, he plays a halfling.
halfway.
Wait, that's officially confirmed that he's a halfling.
Yeah. It was.
I thought that was a
he's
gnome because
halfling.
he was like extra small.
I thought he was a gnome too, but he's a halfling.
That was when that door opened and it's Bradley Cooper's dorky face looking up at Michelle Rodriguez. That was incredibly hilarious.
And he's like putting on kind of he's kind of putting on like a softer voice. And I'm like, oh my god, this is great.
I really love. I didn't know how badly I wanted tiny Bradley Cooper be like talking to Michelle Rodriguez
their
and her
little
being charmed by him. Yeah. Real quick, I want to highlight like I love both Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez in this. Chris Pine's obviously almost always fantastic, but his dynamic with Michelle Rodriguez, she ends up being, her inclusion here makes me so happy because I think she deserves more roles that are sizable like this and show her range. But more importantly, this thing does two things that I think are super valuable with Michelle Rodriguez's character. One is that she's both badass and maternal at the same time. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that her and Ed are left completely platonic, and it is so great to see.
They're parental figures together as friends.
Right.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really great. You don't get a lot of that in general in movies, so even especially getting it in a fantasy film here is so cool.
Yeah.
And she keeps up with Chris Pine.
Yeah,
which is really nice because Chris Pine is a really dry wit, and you know he can very much like the kind of movie this is. Chris Pine shines in. You know, there's the bit in the beginning when he's knitting, and he's like, I think I'm just gonna make these mittens. Who am I trying to impress? and that's really funny, and he has a lot of really comedic moments. But she's able to keep up with him and bounce off of him, and that's really valuable, I think, to me as a fan of Michelle Rodriguez from a very long time ago. It's really cool to see.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
No, I loved how each of these characters played. They didn't play the archetypes to a T, but there was these great archetypal moments. Like when someone plays a barbarian, you think that your barbarians are dumb, just going off of like Grog from Critical Role. They always have this,
or Mary from D and Dark.
Oh, screw you! I have a decent intelligence. God damn it! As I was saying, people say, "Oh, barbarians are really stupid. They're really dumb." She doesn't. She has like these fun moments where she's like, so she did turn into a deer. Yeah, they're quippy moments, and I absolutely love that. Or even when when the paladin comes in, whose name I completely forgot because Zane. And he's just extremely literal because he's very by the book. He doesn't, because that's what paladins are. Paladins are very by the book.
Say the thing.
Also, first, he almost got turned into a red wizard. That's why he lost part of his soul. That's also because he was almost being converted. But Zank is the only character in here who's actually playing Dungeons and Dragons. He is a character from Dungeons and Dragons. While Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez, they're in a fantasy movie. Zank is the hero from Dungeons and Dragons. He's the guy who shows up in every other movie as the dude. He's like the one who's actually having an adventure, while the rest of the party is like playing Dungeons and Dragons. You know what I mean? Like he is so serious and he is so about the lore, and everyone's like, "You see this guy? That's great."
But
so
but what's really cool about that is that no one is making fun of the lore in this, and so like I hesitate to kind of bring this up, but Marvel kind of got into a thing where it's being really popular that they kind of wink and a nod at the comic book elements, like, oh, this is silly, and we know it's silly, and so we're kind of with you, audience. Where Dungeons and Dragons is like, yeah, this is silly. We're not going to make fun of it though.
It's one of the movie's greatest strength is how sincere and earnest it is.
Yeah.
When you get to the third act and what they do with Michelle Rodriguez's character and the ultimate using of, which you see coming, but like Ryan said, like it wasn't affecting us until they started showing the flashes of her taking care of her when she was small.
It's the Yondu. It's a Yondu moment.
Oh no, you got me.
When that character died, like I was sad, but I wasn't like, oh man. I was like, she was great. She passed. Once she started to become the Yondu, It's like, actually, she was the mother to her child. That's what, like, they've got me. Here comes some tears. Oh, damn it.
And
good.
And the whole movie is done so well in that space that, like, you genuinely, when the movie starts, I'm like, how much, because I don't know Chris Pine's character yet when it's the first scene of the film, I'm like, how much of this is true? And how much is he putting on an act?
Oh,
and like
yeah.
knowing that that's really part of his story and everything, having that sincereness really makes this movie work. And you would have to fundamentally alter this film for me to be okay with it actually showing players at the table for these characters.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that's not the route they went, because they went for something that was genuine.
It would have to be more like Game Night, whereas this is like, it is kind of just like, it's just a movie. It's an earnest movie with dragons.
And I think that kind of goes back to like the marketing thing where studios had Paramount had a hard time marketing this movie, because this is so sincere, and they tried to show you that, hey, it's Dungeons and Dragons. We know it's kind of silly, so they kind of showed us a lot of the things. And I kind of want to move off of that, but I know Ben wanted to say something, so I want to get him in there first.
One of the things I absolutely love about this movie is how creative it is with problem solving.
Sure.
Like, one of the cornerstones of Dungeons and Dragons is the DM gives you a problem, and even though the DM has a solution in mind, anything can go. Like Brandon, you were saying earlier, the roll of a die can change how things go. Player characters can get all caught up in a moment, and like when they were running from Temperchod and they ended up underneath the ocean or underneath the lake.
Excuse me, Chonky. Thank you.
Chonkosaurus.
Shocking. Okay, when they were running, like when the party ran away from Chonky, aka Temperchod, and they were like, and because you could see that he wasn't Temperchod. That's better, Temperchod. Well, when they're running away from him, because you could see that he wasn't able to like do his fire breath, and you saw how Simon did the lay his finger.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff like that makes it like I could easily see people in a campaign figure it out. Someone rolls a really high roll. It's like, oh, this is what we do, and they get the high enough roll, and it's like it passes whatever check they do, and it goes, it works.
Yeah,
the fire blows off the ceiling. You're able to swim up through the top, and you get to the surface.
And right. I love that scene again because it shows like both the both things that I love about the movie, and it's Zank and Ed. And what's the dragon's name been again?
Thunderchod.
I want his birth name. I want to give him the respect he deserves. That chonky boy.
Themberchod.
He's like, oh, it's Themberchod. He must have moved again. And Chris Pine's like, sure, I guess, whatever, man. And like,
no, he has the line.
Did he eat his old dead?
Did he eat his old dead? Yeah. I'm like, he's playing Dungeons and Dragons. Zank is living it. And I just love wish Zank was in the whole movie. Honestly, I loved his like Draxian presence.
When he walks away, he's like, oh, he's still walking a straight line.
Straight line.
There's a rock. Is he gonna move? Nope, he's gonna go over the rock.
That was a very Game Night moment.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Jenkander is the DM insert. You know, playing as like the legendary character.
As
Dick
says, Zank has strong DM PC energy, which I believe stands for Dungeon Master Player character.
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
So because we brought up Chonky, I want to talk about that sequence because we talked about the practical effects, and the practical effects are wonderful, and not just the practical effects, but the practical sets. There are massive sets in this movie, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
and I love it. But the VFX are incredible also. Yeah. Chonky is, I'm never going to call him by his real name. I'm sorry. He is an incredible feat of visual effects because the way he acts, when you are just watching him, he's not moving like a computer generated creature. He's moving like a cat. He's moving like a creature.
The fat cat.
he slides down the mountain of skulls. Yeah. When I saw that, I was like, that's incredible. And then like the environment moves with him, and you feel how heavy this thing is. When he's on the bridge and he's just like dangling on the bridge and just falls. Incredible.
Much to the point of what you're saying, like the practical and the CGI in this movie blend so well. Like, again, because they are such stylish filmmakers, the movie's just great to look at. Yeah. Regardless of like all the other elements we're talking about that are really fun about it. it's just a really good looking movie.
Yeah.
It's a really good looking fantasy movie, and that's such a win.
Yes. I want 3 of these at least.
So Ryan and I were talking about this real quick because you brought it up. I kind of don't want to. I agree with Ryan. I don't really want to see our main crew come back again for another story. What I do want to see is a new crew and Zank. And Zank is like the through line that you always end up with. And maybe one day you have like I joked to Ryan, you have like a crossover with like a crew, and then this crew in like a Shaun of the Dead-esque moment where they're like ships passing in the night.
It was soldier.
Yeah.
I would be okay with that, but I would also really like to see our main cast.
No, I
come
mean,
back.
like, they're wonderful. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. Like, it'd be cool to see them again, and I wouldn't hate it if it happened, but I do think there's potential for, like, you can tell more diverse and rich stories that are still within the world and maybe even have cameo appearances or whatever by these characters without making that always follow them.
Because it is D&D and, like, this movie is basically one campaign. Like, their campaign ended, so, like, a new campaign would make sense. Of course, there are continuations of campaigns, like it's not like that doesn't happen, but like I would love, you know, a whole new set of characters and like, hey, we got a cameo from 1 or 2 of them from this movie. You know, just keep exploring the world instead of going to the same spots.
Dan had a really good idea. His idea is same cast as completely different characters.
That'd be fun.
Oh my god, that's interesting.
I again end up in the same space where I'm like, I think you interrupt what's sincere about this movie.
Oh sure,
because like if you are taking that and then playing with the idea that like you're kind of like breaking the world again to go towards like the game playing mechanic of it, and then like the heartfelt sincerity of how the film is structured falls apart if it becomes like they are players at a table, which isn't to say that like, because I had to clarify this with Ryan too. I'm not saying that like you can't feel things when you're playing a tabletop game. That's not at all what I'm saying. Obviously you can. What I am saying is that the movie is not structured in such a way as to not indulge that these are these characters' real stakes in lives. That is how the film presents itself.
It's like too earnest.
The really interesting thing that you said there, Sparkz, is that like the sincerity on display in this movie is not in the trailers. And you know, I already mentioned that before, but like the trailer, the movie that the trailers were presenting was a movie that felt very much like, okay, we can zoom out and see the character and see these actors playing playing a tabletop game, and that's what we're seeing. This movie, as it's presented to us, is not it. And what's so strange about that is that Paramount has really found a way back into sincere blockbusters in a way that we haven't seen in a really long time. Let's just look at Top Gun Maverick. Again, a very sincere action movie that's not winking and nodding. It's a really good version of what it is. And Dungeons and Dragons sits very much in that same place. Yeah. And to kind of go into like they struggled marketing that is kind of wild to me, because they now are in that marketplace that every other blockbuster is not.
Yeah, again, before I know you want to say something, I mentioned Guardians of the Galaxy. They should have marketed like that. It is a team of really funny people, and here's all really great lines and some great action. Like marketing it as like, it's the end of the world and we have to save the world. We stole this thing. And I'm like, that's generic as shit. Y'all.
I still think that they should have just like told you flat out that like Hugh Grant's con man used to work with them, and then he betrayed them. Now he's the Lord of Neverwinter. He has treasure they want. They need to go get the treasure. He has a evil wizard lady that's under his purview.
They focus on the wrong villain. All that,
and then all the rest of it can be a surprise when you see the movie.
The trailers focus on the red villain when it should be focusing on Hugh Grant. I didn't realize Hugh Grant was the main villain of the movie. I thought he was more of a side character. He is our antagonist. Obviously, like the red villain is there, but like it is Hugh Grant's like personality we are dealing with as our villain throughout the whole movie.
You know what's kind of also interesting? So I know you mentioned that like it, you know, you could do like a different movie. The second movie would have a different cast, but this movie also kind of feels like, you know, there's still that kind of lingering sense. Like we beat this red wizard, but there's the kind of like the big bad still out there. We haven't defeated that thing, so that's going to come for us eventually, and that kind of feels like sequel setup, but not in a way that feels, going back to kind of the Ernest thing, like not in a way that feels like it's being like winking and nodding, like, oh, we're going to get a sequel. Like I don't like many blockbusters. I'm not even gonna say Marvel. Many blockbusters sequel setup like this nowadays because they want you to come back for more. But this felt very much like our story is done, and then there is another story that can come out of this.
Because the
But-
world is always expansive in D&D.
Yeah, but Pi, I know, I see him, Ben.
I appreciate it. I'm always willing to wait if you have a thought to finish. I did want in the same vein. I appreciated that it was such a by comparison a small scale and more like oh shoot, what's the word?
Like
for
a
this?
one shot?
Kind of like a one shot. Like it's a little bit longer than a one shot. It's more like the first arc of a campaign.
Yeah.
Where it's like all the characters, they all have gotten to know each other, are getting to know each other, but they are so closely related to the problem. And it's not a world-ending event as it should get when you get above level 15 or something.
Sure. Well, what I wanted to add is kind of like compare this to Vox Machina real quick, which is like, this feels like the first season of Vox Machina, where like they beat the Briarwoods and they're like, okay, we've done this now, and that's the end of our story. But it sets up the Chroma Conclave are coming, and that's the next story to do. And so that's what it feels like to me they did here, and which is why probably I would feel pretty sad if I don't see this cast again, because this story is done, but there is another story to tell coming to them. And Dan is correct. Ben just brought up the comment. The what I'm talking about is the difference between sequel baiting and just having more story to tell.
Yep.
To what Pi was kind of saying a moment ago, I do think like what makes this film so successful is like if you do like stretch into the campaign brain, right? What we're seeing here is that the movie hinges on a very personal story. This is about Hugh Grant having his daughter and how they get him back because he betrayed them and did this thing.
Mhm.
And then there's to them, right? There's the twist reveal of what the witch is actually doing in Neverwinter.
Yeah.
We get it. We kind of see it. We have all the pieces so we know where it's heading.
Yeah.
But they don't know it. And so for them, that's like a good DM final twist to the campaign at the end that like you thought it was about this, but it's actually about this.
You thought Hugh Grant was a final boss, but it's actually this thing.
Right.
We talked a bit about the humor of like there's a scene that played endlessly in the trailers after the clip came out, which is the bit where they talk to the corpse, the first corpse, and that's a very funny scene. And I was worried that it wouldn't play very well in the movie because we saw it so many times in the third trailer for Dungeons and Dragons. But the fact that scene is much longer is incredible.
I'm
And
so glad.
so funny.
I'm so glad they didn't reveal there was more than one. I'm so glad we only got the one.
You have to tell them the thing that's going to make them sad.
Oh yeah, y'all know Auntie Donna, right? One of the greatest comedians. They voice the dead guys in the Australian version of Dungeons and Dragons. They
Only
do all
the
those
Australian?
Yeah, only in Australia. They voice all the corpses who come back to life. And
Because I
then-
knew the Auntie Donna connection because like I remember when that trailer came out, but I thought it was all of Dungeons and Dragons copies. I didn't know it was just the Australian.
No,
F
that's
that.
definitely not them in our version, unfortunately. Yeah, there's a great YouTube video of them like making silly cough sounds and like, I'm a dead guy. I'm sure the DVD might have something, or if not, I'll have to import an Australian copy.
There'll be a YouTube clip of it.
Because like that's worth the price of admission alone. Oh my god!
But that sequence is really funny because we get like because it like and it constantly like builds on itself as a joke, and like we have that first guy and that's funny, and then the second guy, and then like when they get to the answer they want, they're like, well, it's like you gotta ask me 2 more questions. Well, what's your favorite color? And like they keep they like one of those like, what's your favorite book? Well,
how do you pick?
How do you
I
pick?
need another question.
And like the guy at the end who shows up in the post credits was just like, you still have one more question.
Yeah.
So that's
Very funny.
I don't think that's how it works in the game. I think it dies after like an hour or something.
It's funnier this way.
I know. No,
that
it's great humor. Oh,
Yeah,
Ben,
go ahead.
I think had a rules lawyering.
Wait, hold on. Ryan said something
Sorry.
and that didn't come out.
I just made a joke to Pi because like,
The
what if
post-credits
it
could
was
be-
only 40 minutes after they left? It could have been
Right, the post credits doesn't have to take place after all the events of the film. It could have just been 40 minutes after they walked away.
Yeah.
True.
And
now-
True. I'll take it.
Now,
I'll take
Ben,
it.
What's
Ben, if you want a rules lawyer, whatever.
I wasn't going to Rules Lair. I was going to mention how much this movie is totally fine with referencing things and making fun of itself. Mostly like, because you guys have probably seen I know Sparkz showed it to us on our text thread, but the small little internet ad
That was
on
Brandon.
Oh, that was Brandon? Never mind.
Mhm.
Brandon, you sent us a thing from the old 1980s cartoon from Dungeons and
Mhm.
Dragons where that one dude with the shield, Eric, was like, "Oh, Drew can't turn into owls," and the dungeon master's like, "If I say it's okay, it's okay." And Eric, you suck.
It's a movie. Who cares?
But here's the bit. But not only that, here's the best part. They're in the movie. You see them
when
for a hot. Yeah, the
In the
characters in the maze. The kids, like they're from the kids from the 1980s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon are in the movie. You see them there. You see them in the cage. You don't see them die, thankfully.
Mhm.
And the fact that they decided to throw that in there as well as this little trailer for the owlbear and the joke about being a ruse lawyer, I thought that was freaking fantastic. I wish they did more of that type of marketing than the marketing we really got.
So I just want to add one little thing to what Ben said. I don't think this movie makes fun of itself, and that's one of its endearing aspects of it.
Yeah, I'd agree. I don't think the movie itself is. I
The
think
marketing
I think that
was
trailer
different.
thing you're talking about that
Yeah.
Brandon
Yeah,
shared
yeah,
is
yeah.
making fun
That's
of
not
itself,
the
but not
movie.
the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a really great shot in this movie, which is when Phai mentioned it early in the night when Sophia Lillis, she's a fly, and then she turned. It's a one shot of her going through various animals
It's,
through the town.
It's the Dungeons and Dragons version of the get the egg sequence from Game Night.
Yes, it's incredible. It's incredibly shot. I adore it. I thought it was like right up there, frankly, with the John Wick over the head sequence.
Yeah,
it was pretty good.
Wild
Hard
shapes
agree. Like again, like
does she have?
it's part of what's so special about this film is that they are filmmakers who really think about like what is the most engaging and fun way to tell this story visually, not just like let it like do it in a simplistic, straightforward way. They really think about all of these sequences. What is the most fun way to do this?
All the action is great, but like, man, that final confrontation with like the Red Wizard, and like they unfortunately showed some of it in the trailer. There's also another like cool one-shot action scene where they're all doing stuff against her. But incredible. Again, this like having the confidence, like, yeah, we are doing weird magic. There are multiple mage hands. There's a mage hand battle in this.
Yeah,
movie.
there is.
Yeah.
That is. I cannot believe I saw that in a
Big
movie.
Real quick, Ryan did mention something that like stood out to me when I was watching the movie, which is like there is that one like 30-second sequence where like they're all on her and they're all like giving it their all on her, and I'm like, you so rarely see this in like commonly in superhero films, right? But like in general, you rarely see like all of them getting at the
Beating the
villain
shit
at
out of
once,
it,
and like I really appreciated it. I really appreciate like they're all giving it their all in this moment because they all like have their chance, so why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Real quick before we
Go ahead.
move on, I do want to point out Sophia Lillis' character Doric in the maze sequence did get to exercise her instinctive ingenuity.
Sure.
Where if it wasn't for her, they would not have gotten out of there alive.
Yeah, the blob,
The gel,
The gelatinous
very good.
cube.
gelatinous cube. Thank you. Yeah. You can only stay in a couple seconds.
I really like the we talked about the creature design. The practical creature design is incredible. Man, when Ray J. Jean Paul like takes out that animatronic cat creature,
Cat child.
Oh my god!
cat child from the practical fish, I was like, oh baby, I missed this.
Yeah. Wow, that was like almost horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, just hit the line of, hey, that's cute. Man, yeah. Ooh, what was I about to bring up? I don't remember. I like it all. It's really
Hugh Grant, absolutely committed, and it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
love it. He's so
This
good.
tea is scorching.
Hugh Grant is in a position as an actor that I'm adoring right now, where he's just doing whatever, and he's so much fun.
I again watching a bunch of interviews, like Hugh Grant, very much in the 90s and 2000s was like the lover boy, like Prince Charming in so many rom-coms, and he's like, I did 20 years of that, and I'm over it, and I'm just really glad to be playing assholes. I love it. I love being bad. I'm a bad boy. Every D&D interview is just him saying I'm a bad boy.
I don't want to see you die, Ed. So I'm going to leave the room.
Also, like, I love that he is absolutely like evil and a villain, but I do believe he does care for his daughter. And again, he will betray her, but like his
Niece.
okay. So my favorite thing about it is because he has that little speech where he's like, "What I love so much about it is that like I'm shaping her and she looks up to me.
Yeah,
it's like I'm God.
Yeah,
I'm the Lord of Neverwinter and a God."
There's a scene that I really like between them. I think he's telling the truth. Where he's like, you know, when I look at you, I think there's good in me, and I could believe I could be a good person. I'm not, but you make me think I could be a good person, and I believe that because she is so sweet. But then, yeah, he's an asshole at the end. And
she is failing her insight checks every single time.
I really liked how they defeat him, which is like the put the portal on the boat and just have it rain down from the blimp, which is in his mouth.
From his mouth.
I really did like. I thought that they did a good job rather than leaving it very simple. I thought they justified her distrust of her dad, because the like. I wouldn't have felt this way, but they took it that one step further and showed that he had the wanted poster because they'd broken out instead of actually getting the appeal. He's like, "You've been lying since you stepped in the room." And like, it's enough. Now it's enough. He caught them in the lie. It's enough to make it that she's not going to listen to him now. And you could have left that out and it would have been more wishy-washy on like, how is she not so convinced by her own dad and her? But like, you gave it just enough proof.
Yeah. And I love at the end, he's like, I am a bad father and I wasn't there for you and I'm really sorry. Like which
he doesn't actually say to her, but he's like, I had to give that's Sorfina. And then he says, I'm a bad father. And she transitions.
No, but he does say it to her.
He says later, he's like, I had a good speech. I kind of wasted Sorfina.
In earnestness still is what I mean.
Yes, he does.
That is a great scene.
One more thing I have to love. I want to just praise this movie about, besides the practical effects, the monsters we see in the movie are fantastic. So the Displacer Beast was absolutely terrifying. The Intellect Devourers, little inside baseball for Dean Dark, the campaign the part of the campaign I recorded that day had me in the party fighting Intellect Devourers. That was absolutely.
Which ones were those?
The little brains.
The walking brains.
Oh, that was really funny.
Oh, and not only that, going back to how funny this movie is that, because Zane's like, he's like up on top, is like, if they sense high enough intelligence, because that is true. That's the thing about D&D. Someone has an X amount of intelligence stat, they're going to instantly jump for them. And so when they walk up past them and Chris Pine's going, well, that was hurtful. Because they're like, these guys are super dumb. We don't want to eat them.
Yeah.
And some of them are wise, but that's not the same as intelligence.
Sorry, go ahead. Say that one more time.
It's like some of the characters are wise, but they're not like book smart.
Yeah.
So Ben, what you're saying is that they don't go straight for Mary and D and Dark.
We'll find out next episode, I guess.
You're gonna find out in a lot of episodes. We're pretty far ahead, but I'm gonna remember that.
Start watching this.
I'm gonna pull up my freaking character sheet just to make sure, just to remind myself of how much intelligence.
How high is your intelligence?
I'm smart, damn it.
Abby, normal brain.
I do want to shout out because I think they're more on the tertiary side of our characters, but I think they're both delivering great performances. Chloe Coleman, who plays Kira, his daughter. We've seen her in Gunpowder Milkshake. She was in My Spy with Dave Bautista. She's in The Way of Water. I think, yes, she is indeed. She's playing the youngest. The youngest.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
The one that I like.
I like. So Chloe Coleman, she's really great.
Yeah.
I think she's great, and I really love her in this movie, and I love all the scenes that she plays.
Sorry, she's in 65. She's Adam Driver's daughter.
Oh wow, she's got
she's in that too. And then also, honestly, gotta give props to Daisy Head, who plays Sorfina the Red Wizard, because that did feel like it was going to be generic from the trailers going in, and I think she owns every moment she has. I think she owns her stare. Her presence is menacing and dripping with like her villainous character. The way that she plays the moments that she knows her outfit is being changed into the red out of the blue. Even though that is done in CG, the way that she plays the transitions, she's very talented at what she's doing.
Can I real quickly just say off of that transition is every time is incredible, because the first time I didn't even notice it happened. Well, like she took off her hood and it just turns red. I was like, oh, you just changed colors?
Well, what color did you think it was before?
Well, no, I thought that I didn't notice. It's just that the effect was subtle enough.
No, I get it.
Like, did she take the whole thing off, or what happened?
Like, is this a costume change or what happened? I appreciated the effect. It's just more me talking about the VFX in this movie being incredible.
No, absolutely. I think all that stuff, but like the way that she holds her stares, the bit where it's like she'll explain more about the protections on this vault. It's this arcane magic.
Gordon Kanan.
All right.
All right. Excellent. And then when she like senses Doric is there and hushes them and then screams at her, like
Spooky.
I think that she's doing so much good visual work as a performer. I really, really like her.
Yeah.
I think she brings it in a way that like you easily could have been just blah.
Yeah, on paper, like she doesn't have a lot to say, but like she's able to do a lot with a little. Her presence is palpable. Like I love like when Hugh Grant first walks in, he's like, "Oh, you took your hat off. I see. Maybe put it back on."
Not the biggest fans of the Red Wizards around here, but you know, it's your business.
That was the
Why would I ever
the reveal that he knows, because up until then we didn't know if he was being played or
he's such a shit.
At the very end, when he's leaving the city with all the money, he's like, "Well, thank you for this business transaction. This was lovely. Get out of my city. No problemo. Goodbye. I don't even care."
All right. Anything else?
I think Simon has a very good arc with the whole lack of confidence thing and having to face his ancestor and all that stuff that they do with the helm.
Yeah.
I think that all plays really, really well. Again, like now that we're kind of talking about it, I do think what's missing in this movie is that Doric just doesn't feel like she has a whole arc. Like I guess her arc is I trust some humans now, and I'm like, cool. But like outside of that, there's not enough of her personal character arc. And that's again like the only minus I really would give this film.
More owlbear.
But boy, does she have a great like the way that she trashes her and then she starts to get up and trashes her again, tosses her into the wall and it falls on her. Chris Pine's just killing it. He's so wonderful. We gotta talk about the
loot scene.
Yeah. His eyes bug out.
I want to say that like the line in the trailer real quickly of Sophia Lillis doing the transformation from the owlbear and onto the horse and then like taking off her thing. Going back to the costumes, everyone in this movie looks incredibly hot. Like it's in it, and they do such cool things, and everyone's so charming. I really appreciated that. But as to go back to what you were talking about, Sparkz, with Chris Pine and the loot scene, Chris Pine's got a great voice. If you've seen Into the Woods, which is awesome that he gets to stretch that muscle again.
I love it.
And that loop that they do is horrifying.
Yeah, just further getting worse and worse. It's wild.
That
up laughing.
Constantly, like someone is rolling and the roll starts off good. It's like, cool, you convince them, and just.
Oh no, I rolled a 1. Well, your foot gets stuck.
You roll to get out again. You roll. It's only getting worse.
He's losing concentration, guys.
I think again, like I just want to spotlight. I think this movie thrives on the dynamic between Michelle Rodriguez and Chris Pine, which is actually very, very, very strong.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy specifically like after she sees Bradley Cooper, the bit where he's singing to get her into the song, and like again that platonic friendship works so well in this film, and then both of them being paternal to Kira. I really love it. I really, really love it. I think the emotionality of it is so good. It's
such a simple thing of like, real quickly, just one quick thing. It's just a simple thing of like, you know, we learned pretty early on that the daughter never met the mother, not really, and so Michelle Rodriguez was her mom for all intents and purposes. There was no one else, and so to have that kind of so to be like, well, you can bring back a person I've never met before, or you could bring back my mom.
Yeah, right. And like the the Let It Go story with the dragonfly and everything, I think, is really well
Beautiful.
paced in. It's simple, but it's elegant within this film.
Yeah.
I really like it. I think it's all done so effectively, and this movie's funny and it's got a lot of heart. I really enjoy it.
Hi, you were trying to say something,
And now he's dying.
and now
Yes.
he's dying again.
Yes. Because I did want to remark on Chris Pine's
His cough.
Edgins. Oh my gosh.
Lozenge.
Yeah,
Lozenge.
COVID, man, it's a piece of shit.
It is. Oh God. Anyways, Edgins' class of being that of a bard, we can all agree that that's what he is, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like how, like, while in D&D, bards commonly are magic users or spellcasters, but primarily their bardic trait is inspiration. I love the utility of inspiration, where he's just pepping everyone up around him, especially with Simon and with Holga when she's coming out of the house and she's dour. She's like, I'm gonna pick up your spirits, bud. Like, we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
And like just making sure everybody just like has that with his confidence, they attain their own confidence to like, oh no, we have to do this. We can do this.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't think this could work? After they won.
I
It was your
love
plan.
Yeah, I love Simon. I know you talked about Sparkz, but like Simon's arc of like not believing in yourself, fighting, the past of your own family and like the lineage and stuff. And like Chris Pine's like, yeah, I know. That's what I was trying to get you to do the whole time.
What was the bit where it's like, okay, now we go to plan C. What's plan C? What's plan A? Well, what if it's just called plan A? No, plan A's got a stink on it.
Yeah. Plan B's got stink on it too now.
Yeah.
It just you could tell that the directors and the writers love D&D. They did their homework. They put a lot of thought, they put a lot of effort, and honestly, and yes, there was a Dungeons and Dragons movie made in 2000s. It's horrifically bad.
It's really fun, actually. It's a great time.
Fun,
It's so bad it's good.
I hear people really enjoy Jeremy Irons.
He is maybe
I heard he's a
stand-up.
I need to rewatch it.
I will never watch that movie. Just full disclosure.
Brandon, if you watch it, you have to watch it with a group.
I'm good.
Yeah,
be better.
I'm good.
but
I got this. I got this.
This is
smoke some
by
good
far.
weed, drink some wine,
But
or
this
alcohol of other types. Go ahead.
But this
Sorry.
this Dungeons and Dragons movie is an amazing time. It's a heist movie that you didn't think was a heist movie in a setting that you didn't think would work, but it does. It is so well made, so well thought of. If you don't like Dungeons, if you never really played Dungeons and Dragons, I would feel that this may pique your interest a little bit, because this is still a fun time in the movie theaters. Yes, they do throw some like locations and some jargon at you that if you don't play Dungeons and Dragons, it may go over your head a little bit.
That
Well, but
doesn't matter though.
Real quickly,
Exactly.
though,
It does not
what
matter.
I think really works about the sincerity of it is in the same way that works for Lord of the Rings. Like nobody read the books. I'm sorry, and we're like, oh yeah, Rivendell. Like these are all made up things. And what is really great about the fact that they decided to go with so sincere about it is a movie that wasn't trying to go for sincere would be like, oh, Neverwinter, what the hell is that? The fact that they say these things in a sincerity allows the film to sit in the same spot as like Lord of the Rings, where you get all these things, all these fantasy things, and people will understand it because the only thing they need to understand it is that, oh, place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't need
And
to
that
know
works.
more of it.
Nope.
And that works. And so like, but if but there is the sense of what you're saying, Ben, there is the sense of like, well, if you do play Dungeons and Dragons, then you know more about the lore. But the audience knows exactly what they need to know to make this movie enjoyable.
Yeah, but that's what I'm also trying to convey, that you don't need to. That's the best part of it. It's just like earlier when we were talking about Vox Machina. You don't need to have seen all of Vox Machina, the podcast and the real play show, to enjoy the television show. You don't need it. Just like with this one, you don't need to know anything about Dungeons and Dragons. You just can go in and go. I was like, hey, that was a really funny, awesome fantasy heist film. I really liked that.
I'm kind of stewing on something here that you're talking about, because it's really interesting that you bring up the idea of like, it's great that you don't need the knowledge of the source material to understand this movie. And it's weird that you felt the need to bring that up, because for something like Lord of the Rings, no one ever thought, oh, you need to read Lord of the Rings to understand these movies. And it's so weird that we live in a time now where like Dungeons and Dragons is seen as kind of this impenetrable lore machine that a movie would have to struggle with. And I think I don't think that's a movie problem. I think that's an audience problem where they have a stigma, where still the mainstream audience has a stigma against Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. And I'm so happy to see that this movie is doing well and it's getting over that.
I think it's two factors, which is that Dungeons and Dragons specifically as a brand feels like something where, like, if you haven't at least engaged with the tabletop, you would have this idea that you're not going to be able to get it and you're not going to be able to click with it. Like, you have to start at the tabletop and there is no other way to enter it. Yeah. That's the idea behind it. And I think the other thing is, like, we've also been laden with a lot of terrible fantasy movies in the past 2 decades. Sure. That have just like kind of created the niche of like, do you think you'll just like a fantasy movie at the theaters at this point? And fortunately the answer in this case is yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also, Brandon, not to fight out against you, I completely see your point, but also the reason why I was bringing it up was something like Lord of the Rings, is that the Lord of the Rings are a straight cohesive story with the clear beginning, middle, and end as dictated by the books that came before. Whereas with Dungeons and Dragons, it is all over the place. I mean,
right. And so what's so interesting about that, Ben, is that like it almost feels like Dungeons and Dragons should be seen as less impenetrable than Lord of the Rings, because Dungeons and Dragons is such a free spirit kind of tabletop game where it can hold any sort of narrative that anyone decrees, and so it's such a rich world that you can pull literally and mine any story out of that you could ever come up with. And whereas Lord of the Rings has 3 massive, frankly boring books that are adapted into very fascinating and great fantasy films.
You're allowed to have that opinion.
I'm sorry. I'll take the kids say take the L. I fucking hate those books. But the idea of like doesn't matter that I said that. No, it doesn't matter. No. You guys are making it seem like it mattered. Like I said something so awful.
We're busting your balls, man.
Hear that.
I forgot my point now. I'm sorry, Ben.
It's okay.
Let's move on.
Valid. Before we move past, since we've been talking about Critical Role, Vox Machina, I like even if it's not a nod, it is too specific to not be one, I feel like. But when we first, it
100% is a Critical Role reference. The grass.
Okay, good. Okay.
No, it is.
Yeah. So when Simon casts prestidigitation to create a vague scent, he's like, "You like fresh cut grass?" And that's Sam Riegel's character from the 3rd campaign, currently running.
It is too specific. It is so specific. Specifically for like how popular Critical Role is. Like if it is a coincidence, I would be shocked. There's no way it's not.
Oh no, Watch Mojo well, okay, I don't know if Watch Mojo is a good source, but they did confirm that fresh cut grass joke was from Critical Role.
They're verified on YouTube. I believe them, sure.
I think going back to what Brandon was correctly assessing is that D&D is such a rich tapestry for which you can paint a story inside of. But I think that also left the left the nerves, because like that means you have equal potential to tell a great story and equal potential to tell a very shit story.
See, here's the thing, like that's so much extra. It's like D&D is, while it is very open, it is very scary for people who have never played a game like this to create a character, play for dozens of hours, learn an incredibly hard system as opposed to just reading a book. It is more impenetrable. The lore isn't, but playing the game is incredibly impenetrable if you've never done it before. It takes a while to learn that stuff.
I will not lie. The first time I saw a Dungeons and Dragons character sheet, I was like,
yeah, no, it's frightening. That's a lot. Your first, if you are all first timers playing D&D, you're all learning. You're all learning.
I have a hot tip for newcomers to D&D. Play a stupid character who has simple mechanics like a barbarian or a fighter. That way, that one, you get to be like the the bloke or lass who's just kind of like, hey, what's that thing? And then the DM will gladly fill them in, and everybody around them will kind of like fill in all the blanks. And then all you have to do is just roll to hit things.
Yeah.
And then if that character dies, you have now from that point, from when you started to that point, have learned enough to kind of like get a hang of the improv that's involved in playing D&D, and you know, get a sense of the rules and a sense of the environments that are available.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah, starting as a simpler class as opposed to like, I'm going to start as like a necromancer with 5s, like you want to like, don't jump into the deep end. I know I definitely did because I didn't want to. I
Also, it's just
my friend Ben here is a big physical man. He like Elden Ring, big swords. I'm all about cool magic shit. If it's your first time playing D&D, I would not recommend that because it's so much to learn. That was my mistake. You know, it's not a mistake. This movie.
Nope, not at all.
I think the other thing that's really special about this is that they were willing to allow this movie to run the length it does.
Mm-hmm.
Easily something that they could have been more nervous about and cut back, but it's a over 2-hour film. And I'm really grateful for that because I think it uses all that runtime very well. I could absolutely see them like cutting this movie to 90 minutes and cutting out all the sincerity and just being just like a good, quick action movie with not a lot of heart. But like, I think, the being over 2 hours long, like I didn't feel it at all. I assumed this movie was, an hour and 40, hour 50 minutes. But yeah, over 2 hours. Good time. Hell yeah.
Denver Chonk.
Chunk. All right. Shall we rate and get out of here and move on?
I believe so.
All right. I have a do we want to rank it out of 20?
I see what you did there.
Yes. I'd be down.
I had that idea at the beginning of the episode. I'm glad I wrote it down, or else I would have forgotten.
Oh,
he gets a 3 out of 20.
16.
Boy, that's low.
I'm gonna use one of my DM inspirations that Dan gave me earlier.
That's cross-pollination, bro. Come on, what are we doing?
Natural 20.
Hell yeah!
There you go.
All right, so from Ben, it's a natural 20 out of 20. Ryan or Sparkz?
I think for all the resources that this film has at its disposal, it's a very, very, very good movie. And I like a lot about it. So it's a 20. In this case, it's a 20. I would have said 10 out of 10, so it's a 20 out of 20.
Ryan?
Since we're using a 20-point scale, I would give it a 19 out of 20. Almost perfect movie. Very good.
Phai, since you're new, what do you think? What do you think out of 20?
Oh, God. I think I'm on there with Ryan, too, at a 19, where it's like either they like put something else in or another nod, or I don't know. It's so good.
Y'all, an almost perfect
solid.
score is not a bad score. But don't feel bad that you're not giving it a perfect 20.
Here's the thing. When the trailers were coming out, I was like, if I come out of this saying it's a 7, great. Anything 7 or higher, it's a win. So the fact that it's coming out this high,
again,
fantastic.
high big budget fantasy movie that's like actually earnest and not making fun of itself, and it did well at the box office and it's critically well received. That's a winner in anybody's book.
Let's see what I roll. No, 19 out of 20.
I can't believe that this movie. I mean, I'm glad. Don't get me wrong, but this movie trounced the other dragon movie that came out this month.
Dragon movie?
Fury of the Gods, y'all.
Oh, sure, Marc Dragon.
Haven't seen it yet.
Interesting.
You're the reason it failed, Phai. It was
You're
your
welcome.
$7 ticket sale, matinee ticket sale.
We're in this together. I also didn't see it.
No, I feel like there was another movie that had come out before that none of you guys saw in theaters, and then it was like any type of sequel was canceled, and I wanted to blame you guys for it.
There's a lot of stuff that happens.
Was it Morbius? Because you're right.
Was it 65?
Yes, it was
Morbius.
No. This was like closer to a decade ago, I think.
So it wasn't 65.
No.
It's really funny that he can say almost a decade ago and he's not wrong.
Yeah. All right. Shall we go move into our book club?
That'll do. So we'll say goodbye to Phai. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you so much, sir. Why don't you plug your stuff before you go?
Oh, sure. Thank you. First, thanks for having me on. If anybody else enjoyed my voice and opinions, you can check me out at Sugar Daddy Loot Drops on TikTok and Instagram.
Whoop, whoop.
Very
There it
cool.
is.
Phai, thank you again so much. We'll see you soon.
See
Bye
ya.
bye.